Hello, my name's Esther Hoolley. I'm from the East Midlands branch and I first came into the business in August 2023. Before I became a Thermomix, before I owned a Thermomix, I was working in corporate life for a global company, travelling all around the world and eating in the best restaurants around the world, but being unable to cook myself. I had a husband who was a very good cook, and we used to have a bit of a joke between us that whoever got home from work first cooked the dinner. So invariably I was always home late and then dinner would be on the table. Then about 4 years ago I started to become ill. I knew that something was wrong, I wasn't sure what it was, but I started to suffer with very chronic pain, and I started to take help through the NHS and was misdiagnosed at that time and told that there was nothing wrong with me. Then in August, just before August 2023, my father died and I went to Germany and I discovered the Thermomix by a friend of mine. I was living with her for 4 days whilst I was attending the funeral, and she cooked all of her meals on the Thermomix. So for me, I was just blown away. Then the night that I was due to come back to the UK, she invited all the family over to have a meal. And in a space of 3 hours, she managed to rustle up a great meal for 12 people. And that's really what turned me on, because I just thought, you know, whenever I used to have a dinner party, I'd spend 4 days preparing, I'd be planning for it, and I'd spend 2 days cooking because I wasn't a very good cook. So that was really where my Thermomix journey started, where I first was introduced to Thermomix, and I knew that I needed to have one. Unfortunately, I had a very reticent husband who said to me, there is no way we need another gadget, in his words. And I organised an in-house demonstration with an advisor, and he sat at the back of the kitchen with his arms folded like this, saying, I am not going to engage, I'm not interested in this. And I had pre-warned my advisor at the time that she would get that reaction from him. And within 5 minutes, he'd dropped his arms down and he'd walked over to the machine and he'd started to look at the machine. And he suddenly realised that it wasn't just a gadget. This was something that was not only going to help me to cook and have my enthusiasm back for cooking, but it was going to help him as well. And I convinced him that we could have one. So that was where my journey started, that I decided that yes, this was going to be it. But we didn't really want to spend the money on it. So Sue introduced me on the Earn for Free programme. So I earned the machine for free initially, and then as soon as I'd started cooking with it, my world opened up. I became from won't cook, can't cook, to this thing is really going to change my life, and so I started to cook with it. Then in December 2023, I was suddenly admitted into hospital and came out of surgery 4 days later with a stoma. So I'm now a stoma patient, so I have a hidden disability, and 4 weeks later I was diagnosed with endometrial cancer, a very rare cancer and one that doesn't have a very good success rate. So my world fell apart from suddenly discovering that I could cook to suddenly thinking I'm going to die. My world just collapsed around me. So I phoned up Sue and I said, my Thermomix journey has finished. I don't want to take this any further. You know, I'm earning my machine for free, but I don't want to continue. And she convinced me just to take some time out and to reevaluate life. And then whilst I was going through chemo, I was so bored and I was so poorly that I needed something to focus on. And suddenly there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and I thought, well, I'm lying here in bed, I could learn some social media skills. I could learn how to do reels. I could start advertising the fact that I've now become a Thermomix advisor, and I could start telling people about how I am cooking, or how my husband is cooking for me to help me get better. And we started to cook things like turmeric shots and all the good things that would help my immune system build me back up. And I went through cancer treatment and chemo, which is very, very rough, don't get me wrong, but I flew through it in an incredibly quickly pace and came round and out of it quite quickly. And I'm convinced that's because we were eating well and because we were putting all the right food inside our guts and we weren't eating any preserved food. So it's completely changed my life, but it also helped me get through cancer. It helped me get through the chemo because it helped me sort of think about something else. Instead of just lying in bed thinking, I'm dying, I was lying in bed thinking, what can I do on my social media to promote my business? What can I get my husband to cook me? What else does Cookie Dough do that I hadn't explored? And I was just exploring the world of Cookie Dough and Thermomix because there was nothing else to do, and it got me through. It got me through my treatment. With the social media, I suddenly recognised that there were a lot of advisors that were much younger than I am, and they had a huge presence on social media, and I had none. So my first thing was to set up a Facebook page. So I had a personal Facebook page, but then I set up a business Facebook page, which was sharing my love of the Thermomix. And it started off primarily as me sharing recipes of what was being cooked for me and how we were eating healthy meals to help me get better. And then I started to invite customers into my social media page, and from there we've elevated it that customers share their recipes with me and I promote those then on the social media pages. I focus on the healthy eating, and I also focus on the fact that real food is so important, and the fact that we've completely changed the way we eat. So we don't have anything preserved in our house at all. And I mean nothing, whether it's a salad dressing, whether it's a mayonnaise, a jam, a chutney, a butter, everything is made from scratch now. And that stems from my cancer story, because I want to give my body every possible chance that it's going to get through this. And I'm not going to die in 4 years' time. I am going to give this the opportunity to heal. And yes, I've got a stoma, and yes, I have to eat differently. And yes, you know, there are certain vegetables that I can't eat, but I cook everything from scratch. So twice a week I'll make bread. We always have to have a cake in the house because I've got a bread monster, but I'm supposed to cut down on sugar. So I take a recipe from the guided recipes and I just cut down the sugar, I just halve the sugar. I still make things like fudge, but I halve the sugar, or I use different ingredients that are not so unhealthy. So it's a real health story. It's all about you can eat well if you've got cancer, and actually you can eat yourself well, because I'm convinced that my chemo journey was so quick and I recovered so well because of how well I ate. And I had sepsis 4 times. I was back in hospital 3 weeks ago with sepsis. So my body plummets as soon as I get an infection because I've got no immunity. But within 48 hours, I'm back up again, and I'm continuing to do Thermomix demonstrations, welcome visits, and I think it is really because of my food and what I eat. I'm convinced of it. I think a lot of people that are thinking about getting a Thermomix are a little bit reticent about the price because they don't see the value of it until they see it. And having my background story helps me to promote it, because I say to people, you know, if you haven't got a healthy diet, then you're not giving your body the best chance. And if you are buying, you know, pre-prepared, ready-made meals, A, you're spending a lot of money, but B, you're putting a lot of rubbish into your body. So you're eating a lot of preservatives, a lot of E-numbers, a lot of those things that you shouldn't be eating. And I think by educating other people that you can eat well at a much, much reduced cost to doing your normal supermarket shop, then people start to understand the real benefit that a Thermomix can give them. Because initially the reaction is often, oh, it's a lot of money at £1,279. But then when I explain to people, well, actually, do you know what? I go supermarket shopping and it costs me £40. People don't believe me. They do not believe me. And then I open my fridge and I show them all my jars, all my Kilner jars, all my pastes, all my preserves, all my juices, and then they say, wow, you make your own butter. Yes. You make your own harissa paste, you make your own tandoori paste. And I say yes, because then in the evening when we come home, we can just take out a chicken breast or a piece of fish, we can put a paste in it, and then we can steam it in the varoma. But I haven't had to cook the paste, quickly that evening. I've done it maybe 2 weeks beforehand and it's in the fridge. So I have lots of Kilner jars in my fridge, all labelled up with different pastes. I guess the price is often a stumbling block for some people, and they sort of look at me sometimes when they hear the price and say £1,279, and I say, yeah, but look at my backstory and look at how it's helped me. I had to make a decision when I was first diagnosed: is my glass half full or is it half empty? Am I going to carry on doing what I've always been doing and eating rubbish and eating takeaways and buying preserved meals and buying ready meals and putting them in the microwave? or am I going to do things differently, and am I going to eat better, and am I going to give my body the best chance? And my glass is always half full, and I chose to do things differently. And I guess the fact that I'm standing here being able to talk about a Thermomix speaks volumes. I think for me, when I look at how I cook and how I eat now, it resonates with how I was brought up as a child. You know, with my grandparents, they had their own vegetable garden, they grew their own vegetables. I would help with picking the carrots, picking the potatoes, picking the cherries and the apples and the pears off the tree. And I'm doing exactly the same now. I'm taking real food in its raw form and making proper meals from real vegetables. So it's almost cyclical. We're almost going back in time with the way that we treat our bodies and how we eat, because we're doing what our grandparents used to do. And everybody really needs to be thinking about how they eat and what they put in their bodies, because cancer is so prevalent now around the world, and we have to question why. What are we doing differently now that we weren't doing 50 years ago that we have so much cancer? I guess with my grandparents, they didn't work. They didn't have busy lives like we all do. A lot of the women now that we all know are working and they've got careers. And the way we're cooking now with the Thermomix saves us so much time. So we can put a bread on the mix in the morning before we go and clean our teeth. We can put the eggs on to boil before we get dressed and then come downstairs and breakfast is ready. It's such a time saver in our lives now versus what our grandparents were doing previously, who had the time to cook. The modern day family doesn't necessarily have the time to cook. I suppose the only difference between then and now is time.